Welcome to my mess of an art studio. Yesterday, I spent the day painting, and this was the mess that I did not feel like cleaning up. But now I'm back down here to paint some more, and of course, I can't paint like this. This has to be cleaned up. So let's do that. Let's clean up this mess. Okay, I am almost finished. Now let's paint. For today's tutorial, you're going to need your alcohol ink dry palette, Posca pens, paint brushes, a blending pen, some photo paper, and a watercolor pencil. So you can see that I've used the watercolor pencil to sketch a drawing on my photo paper, and I'm using the matte side of the photo paper. So recently I've been posting a lot of whimsical paintings that I've been doing using watercolor and my Kuretake paints. So I've been asked a few times if I can show how you can do this type of painting using alcohol ink. So here it is. You asked for it, you got it. So I'm using a watercolor pencil on the photo paper because a regular pencil will not show up, and I find that a watercolor pencil works beautifully. So for this painting, I want to make sure that I use some really nice, bright, cheerful colors. So I'm not sure of the colors that I use, but of course you can use whatever colors you like. And you can see that I have lines in my sky, but don't worry about that. I'm going to show you what I do to fix that. And now I'm using the blending pen, and you can see it's got a removable tip. You can just add a few drops of alcohol in it, put the tip back in, and go back to cleaning up your painting in case you got ink over any elements that you needed to preserve. So here I went right over that little shrub, so I'm using the blending marker to clean it up. Now here's the fun part. I'm going to take my mini mister, it's filled with alcohol, and I am going to spray the sky with it. And this creates a really fine mist so that when it hits the paper, it creates this little pebbly effect. And it looks really pretty. It cleans up all those demarcation lines. I don't suggest using your blow dryer to dry it. Let it dry naturally, or you can see I'm just drying it with a little piece of paper. And now these trees that I'm painting, they can be any color. They don't have to be, your typical tree colors. So you can see that I'm starting out with a green, and then I did a pink one. And for this style of painting, you don't have to be able to draw well or even paint well. And you'll see why later on. So again, I went over part of the house with the ink, so I'm just using the blending marker to clean that up. Now for the house, I wanted to use a light color, so I think I used the color Sandal for the house. And I was able to get a pretty smooth surface on the house using this flat brush. Now I'm going to paint the hills. And again, I've chosen bright, cheerful colors. So I started out with this purple, and then I used a bright green for the bottom hill. So I did go over my path, and now I'm cleaning the ink off of the path using the blending marker. Now, I've told you about these markers a million times. They are so great, and they're so inexpensive. You get a set of 3, they're refillable, and I've had them so long, and the tip holds its shape. All right, so now I'm using the color Slate to fill in the path. And again, don't worry if you go over lines or if it's not perfectly straight. In the end, it will look fantastic, I promise. Now I've taken a little teak wood, and I made sure that I had just a little bit of ink on the brush, and you can see I'm running it across and creating these little stepping stones within the path. If they come out too dark, you can just simply lighten them by putting a little bit of alcohol on the brush and going over them. Now I'm bringing out the Posca pens. I'm using the red to create the roof for this house, and I'm using a light brown for the door. And for the windows, I like just making a little line. I think it's so cute. And now, I was so excited about painting these trees. I'm using a Posca pen with a fine nib to outline the shape of these funky little trees. I call them my little heart trees. So you can see that the trunk of the tree is really fat and then it tapers. And then the top of it is in the shape of a heart. And now I used a thicker Posca pen to fill in the trunk and thicken those branches, and now I'm using the one with the 0.7 nib to create these little curly cues and fill in the branches of the trees. I love these little trees. They're so cute. And they're fun to paint also, or draw. So once my trees were finished, I used the black Posca pen to create the frame for my door and add a doorknob. And now I'm going to start outlining all the elements of my painting. And I'm using the 0.7 nib Posca pen in black. Once I was finished outlining everything, I decided to add a little fence, so I'm using the Posca pen to draw in the posts for the fence. And then I'm going to draw 2 lines going through the posts. And there you have a cute little fence. Now, of course, I can't leave well enough alone, so I'm using a white Posca pen, and I'm putting together 5 little dots in a circle to make them look like flowers. And then I'll also add just white dots in between just to fill it in and give it a little bit more detail and interest. Later, I'll use a different color Posca pen to add the center to all of these little white flowers. So there are the little white dots. I'm just filling in the blank areas. And then I used a dark pink to create these weird little flowers. They almost look like little tulips. So I made them smaller in the background and I made them a little bit larger in the foreground. And that's what's great about this style of painting, is that nothing has to make sense. It's just fun and whimsical, and in the end you'll have an adorable little painting. Now I'm using a green acrylic paint pen to add some leaves to these little tulips. I also added some pink dots in between the tulips just to fill in the area. And then I added some green dots too. Why not? Then I decided that part of the sky needed something. So again, I'm using the blending marker to lift that blue because I want to add the sun. So once I lifted all of that blue, I used a bright yellow to paint in the sun. Now I wanted to add a little bit of texture to the front of the house, so I'm using a tiny flat brush to create the look of a stone front to the house. So I'm picking up different colors and I'm just adding a tiny little stroke to make it look like stone. Now I still wasn't happy with the sun, so I decided to use an orange Posca pen and create some sun rays. So first I was just going to keep them thin like this and use a little bit of yellow in between, but I still wasn't happy with it. And now through the trees I was very careful. I just used a couple of dots in between. And you can see that what I did was I started to broaden those sun rays as they got farther away from the sun. And you can see that I made some short lines in yellow around the sun, but then I wasn't happy with that. So I kept them thin, but I did extend it. And then to finish this off, I added some red dots in my little heart trees to make them a little bit more interesting, because all those curlicues weren't interesting enough. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed this video and that you give it a try. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.